guys. Hopefully it's not too windy out here today. But just had this idea about making friends as an INFJ, having friends, how many friends, what sort of quality of friendships, and escapism, hiding away in your own little world. And of course it all ties back to the old question is INFJs, are they born or created? So as I alluded to before, me mum took off with all us kids at some stage when I was 9. And I'd been to a few schools by the time I was 9. And there was a little bit of turmoil there, but that's not too bad, not too bad. But by the time I was 9, at the end of my 9th year, I'd been to 9 schools, and most of that was in when I was 9, when she'd sort of taken us all us kids away. With four boys, 4 brothers by that stage. And she'd decided to run away with a bloke from my dad's work that worked for him. Yeah, so and it was all a bit sneaky how she did that. I'll talk about that part later, how that all went down. But in that year that I went to a whole bunch of schools, you get the situation where you need to fit in with a new group or something like that. And as INFJs, we can. But when you're a bit emotionally shut down, you just sort of don't want to. So it's a hard thing going to new schools and just not wanting to talk to anyone and not wanting to be part of any group. And some people tried to sort of bring me out of my shell. I'd probably say that I pretty much didn't talk to anyone for 18 months, and that year, probably that 9 months or so that I was in a different town that we'd run away to with all my brothers. There was a whole lot of responsibility as the oldest child as well, and I sort of had to fill some shoes that my mother had left unattended, looking after all my brothers, feeding them. They'd go off for the whole weekends, and have a great time, and I'd be left looking after my little kids at the age of 9, my little brothers, cooking things like porridge, because that's all I knew how to cook. And there was a revolt one day, actually. This is sort of a little bit of a funny story. There was a bit of a revolt one day. All my little brothers said, nah, we don't want porridge anymore. And I said, oh, okay, what do you want? Well, they wanted scrambled eggs. Now, I knew how to make porridge, but I didn't know how to make scrambled eggs. I knew that there was eggs, and they were scrambled, and I always knew you had tomato sauce on them. That was just the thing, that I knew that. I didn't know you're supposed to cook them. Well, they didn't mind porridge after that, But so there's a whole lot of responsibility sort of stuff that went on there as well. Being an INFJ, you sort of, you don't mind taking that looking after people mantle. But at the same time, at schools and stuff like that, I didn't want to deal with anyone. I was disappointed with adults, just for being like little kids and just thinking they could just have whatever they want. I was disappointed with all the adults that I knew and all the adults that my mother hung around with. The stepfather wasn't the worst in the world. He was just a sucker that she enlisted with her sob stories. But it was a bit of a mongrel act for him to think that he should take off with the bloke that he works for, his wife and children, in a sneaky way. Anyway, I'll come back to that. I'll talk to that story later. But about the 9 schools that I went to, and those playground situations and lunch situations and stuff like that, I chose not to deal with anyone. Star Wars was just out. We're talking. So I'm 9. Star Wars had just come out. It must have been out a couple of years, something like that. And somehow, at the beginning of this, my 9th year, so when we'd been sort of taken away, somehow, as some reward for something, just to try and get me to talk or come out of my shell or not sulk so much about this whole shitty situation that my mother had put us into. Went to the Star Wars movie. Now, I was, one of the things about INFJs, or maybe it's just me, I thought it was just me back then because I didn't know about INFJs, but I thought you can become passionate about things and just learn everything about stuff. So there's lots of things during my life that I've become a semi-expert in. Just because you take a deep dive and you just learn everything about it and you care. Before being kidnapped, it was a bit like a kidnapping actually, how that worked. But I'll tell you that story later. But I will talk about the kidnapping one day. That just hits you hard sometimes. But before all of that, I know I was interested in trucks, big rig trucks, and my dad had organised one of his mates to take me on a ride in his big Kenworth truck. And I remember, I had a photograph of it, and I drew this truck. I was really good at drawing, and during that night, that 9th year away, I just jumped into drawing. I just drew everything. I had all the Truck and Life magazines, and I'd draw that. And then when Star Wars came out, well, I was just drawing all the Star Wars characters. I was pretty good at doing a Chewie. I liked Chewie. Darth Vader, I could do that. People liked Darth Vader. People would come over while I was drawing at school and be a bit in awe. Before that, they just thought I was some weird kid. But now that I had some skill that they wanted to know about, can you draw me? I had something that they wanted. They wanted to make friends, and I just shut them all out. I wasn't interested. I remember one girl came up one time, and she was trying to be nice. I think I start a conversation about the drawing and start saying it was really good, whatever. But no, wasn't letting anyone in, and so what else? R2D2, R2D2. He was probably one of my favourite Star Wars characters. He had a bit of sass. Didn't take shit. Something about him I liked. I drew all the fighters and stuff like that. I was pretty good at all that sort of stuff. And just what I'm saying is that I spent a long time in escapism, staying away from people because I didn't really like them. It took me a long time to work a lot of that out. It probably took me 18 months. I ended up, just me, ended up back living with my dad and actually being brought up by my grandparents. Because remember, I did say that I was the oldest and the golden child and all that sort of thing. Some little deal happened, and well, actually, I sort of made it happen in a way. I'll tell you about that another time. But I wasn't gonna go back down there when we popped back through to. It was me and my mother came back after that 9 months for some sort of mediation type of thing, and I didn't leave. I was supposed to get on the plane. I said, "No, you'd be dragging me, kicking, screaming. There's no way." So I sort of abandoned all my brothers and stuff like that down there with them, and I feel really bad about that. That was one of the things that really feel bad. But In the probably 9 months, a year or 2 years, something like that, whatever. After that, I still wasn't talking to people. I was still drawing a lot, doing the escapism thing. But one thing I learnt also, how many things are we going to fit into this one? One thing I learnt was about authenticity and internal lying to yourself. I learnt at the age of between 9 and 10 that you can't lie to people. And you can't lie to yourself, because that's dangerous as hell. Because during those 9 schools that I went to, well, not all of them were in that year. When I was 9, I probably went to about 6 of those schools in a 9-month period. One of the things you do, because it wasn't all about staying away from people, I probably did pretend to make some friends somewhere along the line. I don't know. Maybe I made a couple of attempts and that didn't work out so well, so I just didn't bother. But when I came back to the other town, when I was 10 by that stage, or 9 and 10, I actually went back to the same school that I'd left at the beginning of the year. That was weird. And one of the teachers said to me, "Mr. James," and the teacher says, "Oh, you're back, And I said, "Oh, you remember me, Mr. James?" He says, "Oh, there's not a teacher alive that would forget you." That ties back into that nun story I told you about. But I was different when I came back. I was a bit quieter, but it's hard to, a lot of the stuff I'm remembering, but I'm processing as well, because it's, been repressed memories or something, maybe like that, or just stuff you just don't talk about. No, you can't talk about it to anyone, but there was something about telling people what you've been doing in that 9-month period, just sort of like what happened, and just being a kid, you got to make it sound cool. And one of the things I've been doing at those other schools was telling people what I've been doing with other friends, and we'd go to some overpass over some road and throw rocks at cars and not get caught, and I don't know. Yeah. The thing was, once I started telling people that story when I was back in the original town, I started to realise that I don't think that was true. I don't remember those events, but I've been telling the story so many times that I had a picture built up, but I couldn't place where it was. It was an imaginary place. And I was like, oh wow, you're bullshitting yourself. This is dangerous. You could lose track with reality. And it's at that point when I was 10 years old, when I'd processed all that, and I go, oh man, you must have been in some state where you felt like you had to make up shit to fit in and stuff like that. Whew. Wow. That was the big thing. So I've always said after that, like it is something to be able to egg yourself on, tell yourself you can make it, like a Navy SEAL or like a marathon runner. Yeah, keep on going. But at some stage, that self-bullshit can become delusion in such a way where you just don't have a grounding anymore. So it's really important to not lie, and not lie to yourself. But you still need to be able to tell yourself something to get through some things, So, so I've always passed that little message on to my younger brothers as a little tip for what I learnt during all that time. And anyway, I'm not sure that how many lessons we might have touched on escapism, how easy it is to make friends as an INFJ, or decent friendships, and about authenticity, how important that is to an INFJ. Now that part there, I've learnt that. I've learned about not lying. So was I born with that? Or was that created? I don't know. Okay, I'll check in tomorrow.